Hello, Camp Peniel. My name is Ben, and I got to spend 3 amazing weeks over the course of 3 summers serving Camp Peniel as a Vesper speaker. And during those 3 years, I got to see firsthand just how special Camp Peniel is. From the awesome staff to the incredible campers, and of course, the yummy, yummy food. I definitely hope that someday down the road, I can come back and enjoy another amazing week with all of you. I am super honored that I get to share with you a few thoughts from my heart about the book of Joshua. And for those who might not know, Joshua is the 6th book of the Bible. So if you took the Bible and opened it, you would find the book of Joshua pretty close to the beginning of the Bible. And up to this point, this nation of God's chosen people, known as the Israelites, had been wandering the desert for 40 years. And along the way, they have been receiving lots of instructions from God through a man named Moses. And these instructions were preparing Israel to worship God and live life to the fullest in a brand new land. So when the book of Joshua begins, we learn that Moses has just passed away, and Joshua is now the leader of the Israelites. And here they are, they're ready to cross the Jordan River and conquer this brand new land that God had promised them. Now, this was not going to be easy, though. This land that they were about to enter was heavily protected by a group of people known as the Canaanites. They had lots of armies and lots of fortresses. And I have to imagine that the Israelites were probably a little scared about what they had to do next. You know what? God knew that they were terrified. They were terrified to enter into this land and battle the Canaanites. So God spoke up and said these words in Joshua 1:9. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or discouraged, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Wow! Every now and then I get asked the question, Ben, what is your all-time favorite verse in the Bible? And I usually tell them Joshua 1:9. Because guess what? I often get scared. There are so many things that terrify me, and almost every day I'll get anxious about something. And that's when I need to remind myself of the promise that God is with me wherever I go. This command to be strong and courageous and the promise that God was going to be with them was very important to the Israelites, because one of the first things that they had to do was conquer the fortress of Jericho. Now, this is an amazing story, and I want to share it with you. But of course, if you know me, I don't just like to share a Bible story with you. No, I like to experience it. So guess what? I am going to need some volunteers to act out the story. Oh, right. It's just me here. All right. Okay. Well, I guess I'll keep going. So, this fortress was protected by walls that were 2 meters thick. It would take some pretty massive cannons or a giant bundle of dynamite to break through these walls. So do you know what the Israelites did? They marched around the walls, because that's what God told them to do. The Bible says that they marched around Jericho once a day for 6 days, and then on the 7th day, they marched around Jericho 7 times. And after the 7th time around, they blew their horns and shouted as loud as they could. And as crazy as this sounds, the walls of Jericho collapsed, and Israel was able to conquer the land. I mean, this is quite the story. And you know what? There's an important lesson that we can learn from it. Let's just think about this for a minute. Can walking around a fortress for 7 days really make its thick walls collapse? I mean, you can try, but you're going to realize pretty quickly that you just wasted your entire week. You see, God wanted Israel to trust him. God wanted Israel to know that they weren't going to conquer this new land through their own power and might. It was going to be through God. God was really the one going before them and fighting the battles. It was through God's power and strength that the walls of Jericho came tumbling down. And it was through God that Israel was able to conquer and settle on this new promised land. When things went well, and Israel was victorious over their enemies, it was because Joshua and the nation of Israel relied on the command in Joshua 1:9. Be strong and courageous. Don't be afraid or discouraged, because the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. But guess what? There were times in the book of Joshua when the Israelites were not being strong and courageous, and they were not trusting that God was with them. And you know what happened? Things did not go so well for them in those instances. And how true is that in our own lives? There are so many times in my life where I have fallen flat on my face because I thought I could do things on my own. And you know what? There are so many times where I found myself, regretting not taking a chance on something because I had forgotten that God was with me and fighting the battles for me. So the book of Joshua is a great reminder of just how important it is to trust in God's love and strength. Throughout the Bible, God is reminding us that he is with us all the way, that he is fighting our battles, that he is fighting for our victory. And if you don't believe me, just remember Jesus' last words before he ascended into heaven. Jesus says, "Be sure of this, I am with you always, even to the end of the age."